You're going to be talking to a customer about our property management service, and of course, just like a listing presentation, they're going to have a question, okay? And then that question is going to have an answer, which is going to lead to another question, which is going to lead to another question, and you start off talking about tenants, or you start off talking about fees, and you end up talking about evictions and how long does it take, and oh my God, and how much is it going to cost, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off. This is our website,
Should we call some?
and on our
Might make people sleepy.
shrink this completely. And bear with me. Brian just put this new toolbar on our website, and I'm not sure I'm really happy with it.
Now, is this same website for your other offices, or do they have a separate website?
Well, we've got Coldbaker Town and Country, Coldbaker Pioneer, Coldbaker Realty Center. Which, by the way, how would you guys feel if we came up with a new name?
Of what, as opposed to what?
Something unified. Coldwell Banker Unified Group. Other than, and I'm just talking off the top of my head. We've got 3 different DBAs. So we are Coldwell Banker Town and Country in Claremont, Covina, Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate in Marina Valley and Santa Ana, and we're Coldwell Banker Realty Center in Redlands.
I think Town and Country might have a problem with that.
What's that?
I think Town and Country would have a problem with that. They've been Town and Country for
Well, just make us all
Well,
town
they're-
and country then.
But you've been branded
Well,
with concern.
They have, well, but Stephen's right, Town and Country, but Town and Country's been Town and Country for 25 years.
Yeah.
Realty Center's been Realty Center for 25 years. We've been Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate for 9 years and Pioneer Real Estate for 25 years.
So call us Town and Country Realty Center.
It's funny. But at any rate, well, that's a different debate for a different day. The website is unified. So if you go to CB Town and Country, or they used to refer to themselves as CBTC SoCal, which I hate, Coldwell Banker Town and Country, Southern California, you all get to the same website. So then depending upon if you want information, we're in Moreno Valley, I can click on the Moreno Valley button, which I granted is a little, vague and a little mysterious there. It'll get you to information on our Moreno Valley office, who our managers are, what we do. If you want information on the Redlands office, you can click there. And of course, you can also go to the Find an Agent location. But the short answer is they are unified.
Okay,
So-
I was just wondering, because you log in as CBPRE,
Well, not
and
really.
that's what I meant.
Well, you could do this. Let's just get out of here, and we do www.cbredlands.com.
Oh, okay.
And that's the Redlands office has CB Realty Center, realtycenter.com, a bunch of different variations of Realty Center, but it's also CB Redlands. But if you do that, through the magic of modern computing, it will take you back to our homepage. Now, if you notice up top, it did change you to cbpre.com. And we've even thought about changing that because the agents in Redlands, and I even mentioned it this morning, Brian has a bunch of Pioneer Real Estate branded on here. Well, if you're in Redlands or Claremont Covina, you're not Pioneer Real Estate. So we might change CBPRE to just something like, CB United Site or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, anyway, back to the property management, which is what we're here for. I'm on I'm on our website. I am going to punch these buttons up a little bit just so they're a little bit more visually catching. But if you go to the property management section, I'm going to start on the owner info, which is frankly where we left off before. And by the way, this is all on our website. This isn't in a PowerPoint that's saved. Everything I'm going to talk about today, you can leave this office and you can go to our website and you can check it out. Now, I'm not going to play this video in its entirety, but you need to watch this video. Okay, it's 6 minutes long. You can watch it at your own leisure. Everything I'm going to talk about in the video, I'm going to spend more time talking about. As a matter of fact, maybe this will help me out here a little bit. And maybe we'll play pieces of it, and then I'll stop it and we'll talk about it a little bit. Maybe we won't. And again, I'm going to stop right here for those of you that are watching this video, and you noticed it said Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate on the initial tagline. I need to get rid of that because we've got people in Redlands and Claremont and Covina that are the confusion abounds. So, but at any rate, no comment on the waistline, please. Matter of fact, while I'm thinking of it, we'll just stop right there. You've noticed we've got our Coldwell Banker sign in here. We do have the Pioneer Real Estate. If you are if you are selling, sir, and it's entirely possible you guys are going to be out and have the opportunity to sell our property management, so let's just say in Redlands, okay? There may be some, this is why this name thing kind of keeps coming back to them. There may be some confusion on the landlord-tenant side is, well, wait a minute, who am I doing business with? I saw a Pioneer Real Estate business card, and now you told me to go to the Redlands office, and it doesn't say Pioneer Real Estate. You just need to tell your client who we are. We are Pioneer Real Estate Incorporated, and we do business as 3 different Global Banker names right now, but we're all the same, okay? If in the Redlands market, and in the other markets, the rent signs we will put up will say Global Banker Realty Center, okay? And I only go because I know it creates the confusion, all right? But it's basically the same information, and we do put our regular Global Banker signs up for what it's worth, and obviously they say for rent. All those calls go into the call center, by the way.
All right, why don't you follow me on in? We're going to talk a little bit about the services we have to offer.
First thing I think we're talking about here is fees. I think.
Needless to say, you're on our website right now, and if you look on the owner's page, which is where you happen to be, you're going to find the property management presentation. If you've already looked at it, I'm basically going to explain it to you. One of the very first things you notice on our property management.
Okay, what I'm talking about here is this. The setup presentation. And the setup presentation is a PowerPoint that we've converted into basically a PDF file. If you memorize these 9 pages, I think it is, for the most part, you'll have a fairly basic yet decent understanding of what we do. So let me see if I can get this on the screen here a little bit better. And okay, that sounds like you can see that a little bit. And by the way, if you want to customize this presentation, we can give it to you in a PDF. You can put your name here, okay? You can brand this yourself. Obviously what we have on the website is company generic. It doesn't have everybody there. It does list, and it's not, I don't really like the way this looks so much, but it does list all of our offices here with the addresses and contact numbers and so on and so forth. On this particular one, it does have my email if they're interested, but you can create your own. I have no problem with that. The only challenge I have is if you create your own presentation, if you change anything in the presentation, I want to see it. And I'm not necessarily talking about the obvious. The obvious would be terms. I mean, if you're going to change it from 9% to 10%, you might want to let me know first. But I'm talking about the graphics. If you want to put a red swoosh on here, or if you want to put a picture of somebody holding a bag of money or something like that, I want to see it for 2 reasons. Number one, I may really like it, and I may say, that presentation you did rocks. I'm going to now make your presentation the company presentation because it's better. But then quite honestly, I may hate it. And if I hate it, I don't want you to put it out there, you know. So, and anyway, we're talking about fees. If I go back to the video is going to start talking about the fees. This is it. Okay, so if you want to, how much do we charge for the property management services? There are 3 things that you have to remember. We charge 9% of the collected rent. That is collected rent. I emphasize the word collected because if we do not collect rent, for example, the property is vacant, nobody's paying, we don't get paid. If the property is occupied, but for whatever reason the tenant has not paid their rent, or either an eviction or there's a problem, we do not get paid. Okay, now I emphasize that because when I'm doing this presentation, sitting down with an owner, I want them to know, hey, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you on this. You know, it's in everybody's best interest for us to get a good quality tenant who pays their rent, does what they need to be doing, does it on time, because if we put in a bad tenant, not only do I get the burden of having to deal with an upset owner and a possible eviction and possible repairs, I'm not getting paid. It's kind of like getting going into an escrow that you know from day one this escrow is not going to close. But you have to manage the cancellation process, and you have to deal with the angry parties and all of the nonsense all the way to the very end, knowing that you will never get paid. Okay, and that's frankly how the property management relationship is as it relates to how we get paid. We only get paid if the tenants are paying the rent.
Well,
Late fees, yes.
Section 8, if it's Section 8, the tenant is paying one amount, Section 8 is paying another.
Same principle.
9%.
9% of whatever's paid.
Total.
So, and that's a perfect example how we can have, this is why we're going to do this class every month. By the way, we're gonna do this class again next month. We're not gonna talk about the same thing, okay? Shirley's brought up a perfect example of, there is a 60-minute training class on Section 8, okay? And we're 3 minutes into this thing, okay? And an owner's going to ask you that, by the way, ask questions, pretend that I'm selling you this service, and you're, well, wait a minute. And you're, well, wait a minute, Section 8, if you're not familiar with how Section 8 works, Section 8, by the way, is HUD, okay? That is the government-funded housing program that basically offers housing assistance to low-income folks who qualify within certain ranges, okay? Affectionately referred to as Section 8, which is kind of a
Yeah.
less than pleasant
Yeah.
term, but
Yeah.
anyway.
How
Yes.
do we know that the prospect tenant, how long that the government will support them on the Section 8?
Well,
And
normally,
define them.
it's almost, to be honest with you, it's almost indefinitely.
Really?
But let me start with that, and let me finish with that. On a Section 8 property, normally what ends up happening, or not normally, always what ends up happening, is the government program pays a percentage of the rent. In some cases, it's very large, okay? Let's just say we have $1,000 a month rental. I've seen cases where the tenant's portion of the rent is $32 on a $1,000 rental. Government's paying $968.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, this is partially why the program gets a bad name. You'll have a tenant, and by the way, we do not qualify them for Section 8. It has nothing to do with us. They come to us with basically their voucher that says, I'm qualified for Section 8 housing. If they have the voucher, then all that voucher means is that Housing and Urban Development agrees to pay a portion of the rent. They do not guarantee that the tenant pays their portion. They do not guarantee the condition of the property. They don't guarantee anything. The only thing they guarantee is that the government will pay their agreed upon portion of the rent, and that's it. There's a big misconception out there. A lot of people think, well, wait a minute, what if, let's use my $32 example. The tenant doesn't pay the $32, okay? Well, that's okay, the government will pay the $32. No, they won't. Now, if you notify Section 8, hey, the tenant's not paying their $32, can the tenant lose their Section 8 voucher? Yes, they can, okay? Have I had tenants who haven't paid the $32? Yeah. And frankly, do I have owners that sometimes don't care? Yeah. I've had owners that say, look, what, you want us to call it Section 8 and you'll beat them up? No. I don't want them to do that. Just, let's leave it alone. I don't care about the $32. Well, technically, that's a violation of the rules with Section 8. We're supposed to notify the landlord, or not the landlord, the Section 8, the housing agency, that somebody's, running afoul. Can somebody else pay it for them? No. Tenant has to pay it, okay? But again, and I've used this example before, and it may sound a little, unsavory, but it's true. We've had tenants that have come in and they have a voucher and their portion of the rent is $32 or $38, whatever it happens to be, and they literally drive up in a brand new Lexus. Or they've got, $300 Michael Jordan tennis shoes on and nicer watches than I have on. And it makes you, I've had them argue with me about, wait a minute, you have to cut down that tree over there. Well, why do I have to cut down the tree? Well, because I can't get my satellite dish to point in a southerly direction, that tree is in the way. I'm like, wait a minute, you're paying more for your satellite connection than you're paying for rent. So we're not going to have that conversation today, but this is the type of stuff that you all need to be aware of if you're going to effectively sell this service. Because the owners are going to ask you, by the way, you will have owners that want to only rent to Section 8 tenants, which quite honestly is silly. And you will have owners which is equally as silly, that do not ever want to rent to a Section 8 tenant. And both of those positions are ridiculous, okay? Section 8, in my opinion, is just like any other tenant. You screen them.
Absolutely.
You come on in, you've got a voucher, let's take a look at the tenant. I want to see your credit report. Why do I see my credit report? I've already qualified. Well, because I want to see, do you bounce checks to Pizza Hut? I want to see, do you have a bunch of collections for, Verizon or for Southern California Edison? Do you pay your water bill? I want to see that sort of stuff because if the tenant's not going to pay the pizza guy, and if their credit is blasted in a bunch of other areas, to be honest with you, in my opinion, in our screening process, I don't want them renting from us, okay? Now, we're not necessarily looking for income in a job, because the income in the job, that there may be a little different situation there. But we want to check them out. We want to see what sort of history they have. We like to call the prior landlord. You know, what's going on over there? Oh, geez, I'm so glad they're leaving. Why? Well, because. All right. So at any rate, like I say, a whole nother conversation about Section 8. So 9% of collected rent is collected rent. It also applies to Section 8, all of the collected rent money that comes in from Section 8 and the tenant, okay? 50% of the late fees. We basically base our late fees, it's very simple. Late fees are 10% of the rent, okay? We used to have a different formula we used, we just changed it to 10%. So, very simple. If the rent is $1,000, the late fee is $100. Plus $5 a day for every day after. And by the way, the late fee kicks in on the 5th. Rent is due on the 1st. We give them a 3-day grace, which does not include the 1st. So that's due on the 1st. We give them the 2nd, 3rd, 4th to pay with no late fee. On the 5th, the late fee kicks in. And then on the 6th, $5. On the 7th, $5. The 8th, $5. And then it's $5 a day for every day through the month until they are current. Okay, which could be another $125 in late fees. There's basically an additional 25 days in the month. Is that right? 25 times 5. Yeah. Okay, $125. So on a $1,000 a month rental, if they do not pay their rent until the very, very last day of the month, they could have a $225 late fee. Now, some of you may say, wait a minute, I've heard there's a problem with collecting late fees when you go to small claims court and you get in front of a judge. Is that true? Yes, absolutely true. That doesn't mean I can't charge it. Whether I collect it from a small claims judge is a whole other story. But we charge it, there's nothing illegal about it. But when you get in front of a small claims judge on an eviction or something like that, they just tend to throw all the late fees out. Even if it was a $50 late fee as opposed to a heavy late fee, the $50 late fee would be thrown out just as easily as our $125 late fee. Now again, we, management company, take 50% of late fees. So again, does it say, oh, collected, it does, of collected late fees. So if the tenant doesn't pay the late fee, well, of course there's nothing to get. But when they do come in and they pay that $100 late fee, we get $50, the owner gets $50. And then we have what we call a setup fee, and this is the sales job that you guys will need to do. Assuming you have somebody who wants to sign up for the service and they are convinced that this is a good thing, then one of the things that you're going to need to work your magic on is getting them to write you a check for $295. Okay? They write you a check for $295. We call that the setup fee. Getting them set up into our system, so on and so forth, and that's it. That's basically our fees. So let's go back and we'll play a little bit more of that video. Oops, wrong video. Stop.
How do we find these people? Or
Yeah,
I mean, are we
let me
gonna
get
go?
to this presentation and we'll talk about that. Because if you're actively going to go solicit, I got a whole bunch of great ideas for you.
Right up front, we talk about fees.
Well, this is I need a PowerPoint. Excuse me.
Our full service property management company has 2 fees, and that's it. We charge 9% of the monthly collected rent. That's only on collected rent. So during the property, any type of vacancy or when the property is not collecting rent, God forbid, and it's not paying, we don't get paid either. The 9% is only on collected rent. Now, we have a $295 tenant placement fee. Tenant placement fee.
Anybody notice a mistake in my video already?
Too dark.
Well, other than it's too dark. Okay, let's stop right there. First of all, I just noticed a problem with my thing. I said we have 2 fees.
I know.
The presentation talks about 3. The late fee, we talk about the late fee somewhere else. So, as someone who hasn't looked at this in 6 months and not realizing that my paper presentation doesn't necessarily match up with my video presentation, I need to go back and change that. We do talk about late fees elsewhere, but since I'm referring them over to this, and on page 1 of this, it says, what one? Come on. That's not the one. And on the page I'm referring to, there's 3 fees, they're not 2 fees. Okay? So anyway, elsewhere in the presentation, it refers to the late fee. So, another thing that I just noticed it was saying is the $295, the setup fee, it's not a one-time fee. Okay? So you sign them up today, get a check for $295, get them into the system, and we'll talk about the system a little bit later. We advertise the property, we show the property, we put a sign in the yard, we screen the tenant, we do the move-in inspections, we do everything that needs to be done to get the tenant in the property. We move them into the property, they start paying rent. A year later, 2 years later, which by the way, our average length of a tenancy is probably close to 2.5 years. Okay? I haven't looked at this in a while, but in the past, if I went through and I looked at how long do people stay, even though most of them come in and we do 1-year leases, and most of them are like, well, if you asked them when they signed the lease, well, what do you plan on doing at the end of the first year? Most of them would kind of say, I don't know, we'll see. But in reality, most of our tenants stay over 2 years in a property. Okay? Well, let's pretend that tenant has moved out after a year or 2. The property is now, once again, vacant. We need to re-advertise, re-show, re-screen, and place them in. The $295 setup fee, we now change the name of it, and we call it a tenant placement fee. Okay? So basically, every time the property becomes vacant, we put a new tenant in there, it's $295. So now if the tenant stays for 10 years, it's not annual, and it's only based upon tenants moving in and moving out. Okay, so if they get lucky and they have a tenant there for a long time, you get to stay for a long
Alright,
time.
we just spent a little bit of time talking about our fees. Now let's talk about a general overview of our services. From the very first moment,
You guys hear that okay?
for rent sign in front of the door, I cannot stress how important it is for you to allow us to put our for rent sign in front.
Okay, talking about a sign, okay? This is just like selling real estate. If you have a landlord who is going to handcuff us, I do not want you to sign them up. Okay? I'm going to pay you guys $500 to do this. I'm going to ask for my $500 back if you are signing up properties that I cannot rent. Okay? So, the example that I gave there to the owner was, hey, you saw our professional for rent sign out in the front yard. It's there for a reason. Signs sell houses and signs rent houses. Okay? So if you have a landlord, oh no, I don't want a rental sign in front of my house. Okay, well, I'm going to say this, there's going to be some exceptions to this statement. But generally speaking, if you don't want a for rent sign in front of your house, I don't want your property. Okay? Because you're telling me that you don't want to rent it. Now if it's in a special condo association, they don't allow, I get that. I'm perfectly cool with that. But you just got a regular neighborhood, a regular property, and for whatever reason they're afraid, going to be broken into, and have this nonsense. Okay? We want to get a for rent sign in the yard. And whatever other objections they may have.
Buying a house or renting a house, most of our leads, frankly, come from a for rent sign in the front yard.
Did you hear that? It's a true statement. Most of the buying or selling, most of the leads that we're going to get for the property in our neighborhood come from the sign in the yard. Okay? Website, yeah, we get a lot of stuff off the website. We get a lot of stuff just from referrals, but we get sign calls are the ones.
Concerns about that, please put them aside. Let us get our for rent sign in there. Be amazed how much activity we got on the sign calls. Also, internet advertising. You're on our website.
Okay.
Thanks.
Talking about the internet advertising. We're basically, on our website, you can go, let's go there now. Now, again, we're on the landlord section of our site right now. We went to property management owner information. If I go, I think I might mess up by switching pages, but anyway, let me see if I can open this, and open up another one. Okay. On the tenant side of our section, which we'll talk about maybe next month, we'll talk a little bit more about the tenant side. And I don't know if you saw what I just did. I went to property management, tenant info, okay? All of our houses are here. This Search Our Homes feeds into our proprietary software program. We have a program called Buildium, okay? The name of it's really not that important, but we have a really, really nice, state-of-the-art, web-based program that we manage all of our properties on, and it happens to be called Buildium. You're looking at it. I'm just going to just do a basic search on what we have. This is updated instantly. If the owner calls and talks to Aubrey and says, hey, lower my rent from 800 to 750, and she changes it to 750, bam, it's instantaneous. There's no lag on any of this. Anyway, these are all of our rentals. We get a huge amount of leads and prospects of people. Frankly, to be honest with you, over 50% of the website traffic that we currently have to our website, our office website, is rentals. Over 50% of it. And where are they going? They're going right here. They're searching our rentals every single day. Okay. Now, having said that, we also do Craigslist ads. We also do rent.com ads. We've got a whole bunch of internet ads. We put them in Trulia. They're in Zillow. I know Stephen and Selena have recently been doing some stuff in Trulia, and you guys got sucked into the back, the vortex of rentals there for a little bit. We have to separate those out. We get dozens of rental leads a day through the internet. Dozens. If the property is a good rentable property, I'll literally have 10 times more people that are inquiring on the property than I can actually put
Like
in the
15
house.
in one day on one property.
One day, one property. The good properties that are priced right, I'll get 50 inquiries a day, and I'm not exaggerating. 50 inquiries a day off the website.
Who decides the rent amount?
Great. Well, you guys do. Okay, but ultimately the market does, and it's a big deal. I think we talked about this at the tail end of the video. This is why I actually like. I mean, I have some comments in the office saying, Lance, you are crazy. You do not want your real estate agents going out and signing up the rental properties. Nah, I might be a little crazy, and there may be some truth to that. There may be a few agents out there that I really don't want doing this. Having said that, I like you guys doing this because this is very similar to a listing presentation. Okay? And I think if you are particularly good at your listing presentation, with a little bit of practice, you will be very good at your property management presentation. And to get into Stephen's comment, how do you establish price? Well, you establish price the exact same way you establish price on a house that you're selling. It's a little bit more difficult, going to getting. I will tell you, having said that, it's not exactly the same. Going into the MLS, pulling rentals, and getting that information can be a recipe for disaster. Okay. A lot of that information is good, but a lot of the information is not so good, okay? So, and this is again kind of where the experience comes in. If you're not doing this a lot, you're not familiar with it, you could set yourself up to fail. Which is one of the reasons that Jay, for example, that Jay for the most part, all he does is rentals. You give him a neighborhood, you give him a bedroom, a bathroom count, a square footage count, and he can generally say within $100 where this property is going to be, okay? The more you do this, the more familiar you'll get with that. But it is also the Achilles heel of the system. If you go out and the owners that are renting their houses are for the most part are similar to sellers. They always want what? More money than it's worth. If you hitch your wagon to that and you say, oh yeah, no problem, I can get you $1,750 for this, and I can't rent it, you're not going to get paid your $500. It's the equivalent of taking an overpriced. What do we get paid when we take overpriced listings and they expire? No, we don't get paid. Same thing applies here. This is not a guaranteed $500 if you're signing up properties that I can't rent. And it doesn't just apply to price. I don't want junk. Okay? If you're out in front of a property and the owner, I mean, this is an easy one. Come over right now. I'm ready to get my property on the market. And you're thinking, wow, this is going to be cool. I'm going to go over, it's going to take 20 minutes, I'm going to make $500. And the price is right and everything is right, but the house is wrong. Okay? Well, wait a minute. What are you going to do about this carpet? What do you mean? Well, there's dog crap all over the carpet. What are you going to do? Oh, no, that's as is. What do you do about the paint? What do you do about the land? No, that's as is. What do you do about the green pool? No. That's, the tenant can deal with all of that. I do not want that property. Now, those are extreme examples. Having said that, every one of those examples I just gave you is absolutely true. We have had property owners, I've been out on those setup appointments before, where they have flat out said, no, I'm not replacing the carpet, it's the tenant's responsibility. You're kidding me, right? It smells, I don't want to mean to be rude, which by the way, I think I am rude on these appointments. I'm going to rephrase it. I'm truthful on these appointments. If you go in, just like, by the way, a lot of what we're talking about translates to a listing presentation, so I would suggest you keep this in mind when you're talking to your sellers in your listing presentations. You go out on a property and the house smells like urine, pet urine. Have we all been out on those before? If you're being polite by not mentioning that, you are doing your client a disservice, not to mention yourself a disservice. You have to tell them tactfully, politely, oh geez, Mr. or Mrs. Possible client, what were you planning on doing about the carpet? Well, what do you mean, Lance? Okay, there's a lot of pet stains and I smell pet odor. Well, what do you mean? Well, it really, there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to get this property rented and or sold with the carpet in this condition. What do you think, it's that bad? Yes. How bad do you think it is? It's so bad I'll never be able to sell it at this price. Which, by the way, selling a property in that condition at the proper price is a lot different than renting. You will be able to sell. I mean, okay, yeah, sure. You want to leave it the way it is? It's going to cost, I think it's going to cost about $4,500 to replace the carpet in this house. If you're willing to take $10,000 less, then I can probably sell it. You mean I have to take $10,000 less than everyone? Right? About right?
I don't know about with the inventory the way it is now.
Right.
You might be able to get full.
Well, maybe. But what about on the rental side? That doesn't work with a tenant.
Right.
Doesn't work with a tenant. Which, by the way, have we done that before? Yes. Have we taken those properties? Yes. Have we told the tenant, oh, by the way, this is what you get? And have we had a tenant that will agree on it? Hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, you're going to give me a month off of the rent or 2 months off of the rent. The tenant's going to be responsible to replace the carpet. Have we done that before? Yes. Does it work out good? No. It's always a disaster. We're going to give the tenant 3 months free rent because they're going to replace the carpet and they're going to do the paint and they're going to put in the stove and all the rest of that sort of stuff. It sounds good, right? It never works out good. It never works out good. So, at any rate, setting the value is frankly one of the toughest things.
Do we have a list of values of
We do.
repairs for the?
For repairs?
That the owner would need to do, like how much it would cost for them to do the carpet or the paint?
We don't necessarily have a punch list that you could use, but again, it's another one of those things. It's kind of like, that's why, frankly, I kind of like having realtors go out and do this. Because the longer you're in the real estate business, you do get a general idea of, okay, how much would it cost to replace this carpet? How much does it cost to replace carpet per yard, base grade FHA, 26-ounce base grade FHA? Right now is about $13.50, $14 per yard. Okay? Well, how many yards in a house? Let me do the math here real quick. And you've done a few of them maybe before. We just replaced similar carpet or something like this. It costs $2,800. Okay? Now, if you don't have a baseline to make that statement, that comes with time. It comes with experience. But the same thing holds true when you're selling a house. Okay? How much does it cost to replace a garbage disposal? Well, it depends, but generally speaking, $125. Basic garbage disposal. How much is a stove? Stoves installed. Basic Home Depot off-the-shelf white stove.
$300-400.
Yeah, $325 for the stove and another $75 to $100 to get it installed. $375, $425. All of that sort of stuff. Those are the type of things that you really, the more you do this, and frankly, the more you're in the real estate, you're going to have clients who are going to add, the dishwasher doesn't work. How much does that cost? I have no idea. Well, you need to know that. Generally, you need to know how much it costs to get a dishwasher or a garbage disposal. Because frankly, you guys are going to pay for a lot of them. So, anyway, let's try to get through a little bit more of this presentation. But as you can see, this is why doing a 1 hour, and we're going to stop at 11. We're going to get out of here, maybe a little bit after 11. But this is where you can see is if you come to this every single month, we'll talk. We can go off in tangents about repairs. What's it cost? What do we do with roof? By the way, what do you do when a roof leaks? You fix it. Is that the tenant's responsibility, the owner's responsibility? Owners. Well, are there some exceptions to that? Okay. It's Christmas. The roof is leaking. We get a call from the tenant. My roof is leaking. Okay. 99% of the time, I would generally agree with everybody's statement here. That is the owner's responsibility. We send the roofer out there. The roofer gets out there and says, well, the reason the roof is leaking is because the tenant was up on the roof walking around on the tiles and they put their Santa Claus on the roof and all of the tiles around Santa Claus are all broken. Now whose responsibility is it? Tenants. Misuse and abuse. Whose responsibility is it when a garbage disposal fails?
Usually the tenant, because they put something down.
Okay, well, you took the opposite approach, but
Yeah.
usually it's the owners. Garbage disposals wear out and they break over a period, especially the cheapo ones. If you go out and have a garbage disposal replaced and you get a bill for $125, did they put in a high-end garbage disposal?
No.
No, they put in a Badger 2, which you can buy right off the shelf at Home Depot for $30. Half horsepower, 3/4 horsepower, crap garbage disposal. They last a year, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. Okay? Can you buy a $300 garbage disposal?
Yes.
Yeah, they last forever. Okay? But owners, landlords don't put $300 garbage disposals in their units. But to Shirley's point, I'm going to take the opposite point, but you're actually correct. Most of the time, the garbage disposals are owners' responsibility to fix. But the guy gets out there, they pull the G.I. Joe out of the garbage disposal. Now that's a misuse and abuse issue. They're putting wrong things in the garbage disposal. Tenant now pays for that.
Can a tenant fix certain repairs and charge it to, or deduct it from the rent?
Generally speaking, no. Our lease agreements say that the tenants are responsible for all repairs under $75. We don't necessarily enforce that to the letter, but the intent is, I think this door still squeaks. Everyone be quiet. I oiled it. It doesn't squeak out. Okay. This is the deal. Tenants, there's a certain amount of mental illness associated with managing rental properties. Tenants are very, very difficult. You think landlords or buyers and sellers are difficult? Buyers and sellers are a walk in the park compared to landlords and tenants. Okay? Tenants, the best tenant in the world moves in, the credit's great, everything's great, their application looks perfect, they're pleasant people, they move into the property, and then what? My door squeaks. The handle to the bathroom is wiggles. You know, so we go out there and like, you're kidding me, right? You know, let's go over to the kitchen, grab me a little vegetable oil, and we're gonna, lube this up here, okay? You're right, the handle, Mrs. Jones, the handle was loose. You see these 2 screws here? You need to get a screwdriver out of the junk drawer. Everyone have junk drawers? Okay, I always say junk drawer. That's where you put all the junk in the kitchen, right? You get the screwdriver, and now the reason we say the tenant's responsible for all repairs under $75 are the examples I just gave. The light bulb burned out. You're not replacing your lights. You go to the store, you replace your own light bulb.
My tenant told me all her landlords replace light bulbs, and she used
Yeah,
to
she
call us.
wanted me to come to replace her bulbs.
Okay. Well, and you might want to do that. That might be something you want to do, but generally speaking, you don't. Now, if the house has 1 million light bulbs, and the tenant moves in and they're all burnt out, I get that. The landlord should be providing light bulbs and putting light bulbs in the property. But I'm talking they've been in the property for 6 months, now the bathroom light bulb's burned out.
That's what I had.
Okay. Now again, having said that, I don't want to sound like we're so harsh when it comes to repairs, we just kick all that stuff aside. We've got a great tenant, they pay their rent on time, maybe it's just a little old lady and she's all by herself and she calls in and the light bulb is too high. You know what? We're customer service driven. Yeah. Hey, Mrs. Got it. We'll send somebody over there, we'll change the light bulb for her. But generally speaking, we don't want to do that sort of stuff. So now again, that $75 repair, you may be thinking, wait a minute, there's some things that are definitely not tenant's fault, that are definitely owner's responsibility, that are definitely in the wear and tear category that can be fixed for much less than $7,500. Guess what? We fix those all day long. Okay. But the short answer to your question is, can the tenant repair and then deduct? Generally speaking, no. We don't want them doing that. Then we want them to call into our office, because we want to approve the repair. Tenants can go crazy with that. Every month they're deducting $200 for repairs. What do you do this month? Oh no, the screen came off the back door a little bit. Had to get that fixed. $200. And we don't want to do that. They'll eat us alive.
On our website, there's no additional charge for that. It's all built into our package. So the web access,
We're talking about internet advertising right now.
features, it's all included. There are some additional charges for advertising, but that's really up to you. If newspaper advertising is important to you, frankly, it used to be important to us. But over the last several years, print advertising just really has not delivered the bank.
Okay, if you didn't hear that, basically if they want an ad in the Press Enterprise, they gotta pay for it. We don't advertise in the newspaper anymore. We just stopped doing it. To be honest with you, it does put us at a little bit of a disadvantage because some of our, not necessarily for getting the properties rented, but for actually putting our name out there and branding ourselves with landlords. Because, you know, Management One, for example, in O'Neill, you'll see a lot of advertisements in the Press Enterprise for those companies. But they actually force, well, not force, that's not really true. But, you know, all of their landlords pay for that. They're not paying for that, you know. Management One does not pay for that ad in the newspaper that says Management One has a house for rent on 123 Main Street. The owner of that property does that. If you've noticed in the newspaper, there's a lot less of those ads anymore. You know how much it costs to advertise for 1 week in the Press Enterprise? It's $100. I think it's a little more than that. I think it's $104 1 week. Okay?
So per ad?
For a week's long ad in the Press Enterprise. Just a 3-liner on the rental side. We're charging $390. Think about this. We're charging the $395 setup fee. We run an ad in the newspaper for 3 weeks. We're already done. We're toast. And then again, then you keep in mind, you now have an owner who has a property that carpet smells like cat urine, and it's $150 overpriced. And you want me to advertise it into the Press Enterprise at $100 a week at my expense? Sorry. You want to pay for the ad, which is basically what this little piece of the clip says. If you want to advertise in the print media, we'd be more than happy to do it. Just cut us a check. And you will have owners that will want to do that. Instead of having them write you a check for $295 when you sign the property up, ask them, well, how many weeks would you like us to advertise it? Well, I don't know, as long as it takes. Well, it'll take at least a couple weeks to get going. You want to commit to 2 weeks worth of advertising? Yes. Add an extra $200 to that check you just gave me. Why? That's what it's going to cost to run the ads. You pay for it. Especially, and tell them this. You want to run the ad, I got to tell you, you're wasting your money. Why? Because I told you got to replace the carpet, and you're $200 overpriced. You are wasting your money. Be honest with me when it comes to that. Yeah.
I was just curious. He said $395. I was just making sure it's $295.
It's $295 to set up. Did I say $395?
Yeah, $295.
$295.
Yeah.
What
That's
else we
something
got?
you're interested in, happy to do it. However, in most cases, it's probably gonna cost you close to $100 per week if that's what you want to do. We can talk to our sales staff about that.
That depends on what newspaper you're putting in. But Press Enterprise is $100 a week.
Now, some of the other more elementary
How compatible are our fees compared to, like you said?
In Inland Empire, we're very competitive, specifically Moreno Valley. 9% is pretty good. You'll find some companies that are, you know, down in the 7s, and Management One is 10. We used to be 8 for a long time. It's pretty rare that we lose business over the 9%. Some companies will charge a 50% of the first month's rent, which in most cases is going to be more than the $295. Some companies don't have an initial fee. It varies, but when it comes right down to it, we're pretty competitive. If you're going to be selling stuff in higher rent ranges, you're pushing closer to Orange County or Western Gabriel Valley in those offices, 9% is not as competitive. We need to come off of that mark a little bit. You know, 9% of a $2,400 a month rental. As much as I love that, I don't need 9% on a $2,400 a month rental. You know, 8% works okay for me. 7.5. I look at the commissions the same way that I look at real estate sales commissions. And by the way, we can have this conversation internally because we're not competing with the folks across the street. This is an internal conversation. If you're constantly cutting your sales commissions because it's the easy thing to do to get the listing, then you need to kind of reflect on your sales skills and your ability to do that. Same thing applies on the rental side. If you're out, and by the way, you don't have to come and ask for permission. If you're out there and you've got a client, you think, geez, this is a good property and, you know, I need to do it at 8%, I'll give you the blessing, go ahead and sign it up for 8%. But if everything you bring to me is 8%, I'm going to sit down and talk to you and say, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're obviously taking the easy road out. Don't tell me the last 10 people that you signed up all pressed you at an 8% commission. But I guarantee you the last 10 people I signed up, I brought in at 9%. Or at least 8 out of 10 of them I brought in at 9%. So, but you can play with that a little bit. If you need to waive the $295 setup fee to get the deal, waive the $295 setup fee. It had better be a nice rental though. And it better be rentable.
Coverage area, are you cover all the
Southern
way to
California.
Los Angeles?
No. We're basically, if you take about a 10-mile radius of all of our offices, which covers a lot of ground. So, we've got, certainly, we have properties all the way down to Temecula, which certainly is more than a 10-mile radius. So out of this office, as we're managing as far as Temecula, we certainly have a lot of properties in Banning and Beaumont. There's kind of a natural boundary when you get to Beaumont. We're not doing really anything down in the low desert, Palm Springs or anything like that. Certainly Ukaipa. Redlands office obviously can cover that whole San Bernardino Valley. We're not really taking anything in the mountain. I have taken a few rentals up in the mountains for friends. We've done okay with it, but it's tough because someone calls and wants to see it.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta provide that. We gotta go up and show it.
Go and show
You
it.
don't want to drive up the mountain.
Yeah.
So we normally recommend get a local company up there. So again, same thing with Claremont Covina Market. We've got stuff out certainly in Brea and
Monterey Park.
Monterey. We have some
That's
stuff
it,
in Monterey Park.
maximum.
Yeah, pretty much that 10 corridor we've got covered pretty well. I have one property up in Apple Valley, up in the high desert, a past client that we managed down here and they moved up there. Been managing it for them for 6-7 years. It's been vacant 3 times. When it comes vacant, we cringe, but we seem to run it out pretty quick, and we'll drive up the hill half a dozen times in a week and get the thing rented. So but that's a little bit tough. And Santa Ana is another story. We're really trying to plant the flag out there. But quite honestly, if any of you guys have any business out in the Santa Ana area, and you think you want to, when I say Santa Ana, in the Orange County area,
Orange County.
take it. I will figure out how to service it. Okay? Now, San Clemente, go on the San Diego border.
Oceanside.
Call me first. It's a little too far south. But give me a 15-mile radius of the Santa Ana office, which pretty much is all of Huntington and Newport and Costa Mesa and all of those areas. We should be able to handle that pretty well. Okay.
Next comes to showing the property. We're inside one of our rentals right now. This is generally a rental that's more or less the condition that we need it to be in to rent. But when it comes to showing, most management companies, believe it or not, do not actually show your property. You'd be surprised how many management companies will actually give out a key.
Okay. Talking about showing the house, 2 things real quick on that. That is one of our rentals. The stove comes to mind. I've had owners that don't want to provide stoves. Okay. Matter of fact, I just had an owner who just fired us. We've been managing their property for a very, very long time. Tenant moves out. The stove is trashed. The owner does not want to replace the stove for the new tenant. We're going round and round and round. It's a $400 stove, right? Doesn't want to do it. We have a tenant. We made a mistake. We have a tenant that wants to move into the property. There's no stove. Ricky's new. The company policy is we rent properties with stoves. Okay? Tenant, Ricky says, which I would have said the same thing, yeah, the stove will be replaced. It's the only thing that the house needed. Owner approves the property. And then, we subsequently discover, wait, there's no stove. Well, then, hey, we need to get the stove in. I told Lance, I told Aubrey, I'm not going to do a stove. You're going to lose this tenant, okay? I mean, bottom line is, he loses the tenant and fires me. And he's probably going to go to another management company, and what are they going to tell him?
Put a stove in.
Put a stove in.
And he'll do it.
Or he's going to rent to somebody, and I guarantee you, one way or the other, and he's already done it, because he just lost this tenant. He's ultimately going to pay for the stove, so we need stuff like that. Another thing I was just talking about was when we show properties, we show our own properties. Some other companies out there don't show their properties. They'll literally give out keys. Tenant comes in, I'm interested, here's my driver's license, here's a key, go out and show it. We don't do that. Everybody that we show the property to is going to be shown by from in our
In
office.
exchange for a driver's license. We don't do that. Every prospective tenant, when we look at your property, basically shown that property personally by one of our property management leasing agents. Personal tour of the property, give them an idea, not only from a security standpoint, because we don't want to have keys running around. The bottom line is we show all of our properties personally and like to be able to get that personal touch that helps us screen the tenant. Tenant screening really is a critical part of, frankly, any decision when it comes to renting a property.
Okay. It's not only a critical part, it is the most important part of what we do. Tenant screening. Didn't hear that. Okay. One of the things, it's kind of like and again, the analogy with real estate sales, to me, the reason that you want to hire a realtor, whether they're listing or buying side, whatever it happens to be, isn't so much because, hey, I can put it in the MLS and I can, I'm going to put it in to get you an offer and it'll go through escrow. And to me, the most important part of the process is I now have an offer in my hand, use my expertise to recommend whether this is a good offer to accept or whether this offer needs to be countered or needs to be rejected. Allow me to, if you will, screen this offer for you and determine whether or not we want to accept this and move into escrow. Same analogy is for the landlords. Frankly, putting a sign in the yard, putting it on the website. Oh, by the way, we do put our listings in the MLS. We put it in the MLS. Getting the actual, the activity to the point where we have an application in is the easy part. Anybody can do, any management company can do that. The most, as I mentioned, the critical part is the screening, okay? Looking at the credit, looking at the income, looking at the employment, looking at the application, verifying previous residence, all of which again, that's a whole nother hours-long discussion on just the screening process. Which is why if you guys are gonna get serious about this, you need to spend some time in these classes because you're gonna get sidetracked and the owner's gonna ask you, you had a question about Section 8 or whatever, now they're gonna talk about, well, screening. Well, what do we do? Well, what do we do when it comes time to screen? You guys don't know. Well, I told you check the credit. What is, then the owner's gonna say, well, what do you check? You're gonna, well, I don't know, Lance said maybe a FICO score of 600 is good. Okay, well, I didn't tell you that before. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, then you're gonna, the more depth of an explanation you can give these owners, the better chance you've got of getting it. Okay.
You use a property management company like ours, or frankly, whether you decide to rent the property on your own, really, screening the tenant is really where it's at. Basically, the basics, the stuff that you would think of when you're screening a normal tenant. Do they have a job? Do they have income? What does their credit look like? Do they have money in the bank? All of those type of factors, of course, are very, very important. Any tenant that we ultimately think is a quality tenant, and basically an effective tenant that we would approve, we will then review that tenant's history with you, and ultimately get you to sign off on that tenant as well.
Okay, that's important. We've now screened a tenant. We've looked at the income, we've looked at the employment, we've looked at all those sort of things. We feel they're qualified. Oh, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, before we place any tenant in your property, you're gonna get a phone call from us. The phone call will go something like this. We've got Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is their income, this is their credit, this is their employment. We are recommending this tenant for placement. What do you think? Okay? The owners, and we do this for two reasons. Number one, we want to be proactive and want the owners to, you know, they want to be involved in the process, but we also do it for self-preservation. We want the owner to sign off on that tenant, you know, especially if there's a little bit of a glitch. Hey, everything looks great, but just want you to know there is this little thing over here that ordinarily would be a red flag, but everything else looks so good. You know, what do you think? And quite honestly, the majority of the owners are actually much more forgiving and lenient than we are. The landlords all the time, they're like, are you kidding me? I certainly, we rejected 5 tenants this week. What? You know, yeah, well this, well I would have taken them. I understand, but it's again, the equivalence of an owner wanting to accept an offer that you know is bad. You're the excitement of trying to get the thing in escrow, to click the thing closed. What you've really done is you've tied yourself up for 30 or 45 days only to set yourself up for a fallout. You don't want to do that. But we do let the owners basically give us the final say. There are some subtle, not subtle, there's some extreme exceptions to that. Obviously the basic ones, the discriminatory issues. You know, and by the way, we get it. You know, what color are they? You know, oh God. Let's take one that's maybe a little bit less obvious. How many kids do they have? Well, they've got 5 kids. Well, I don't want them. Wait a minute. Well, okay, well, let's go to that. You've got, how many people can we put in a 2-bedroom house?
Is it 2 per bedroom?
2 per bedroom and 1 in the living space. Okay. Well, let's take my 5-kid example. You know, I've got again, even a husband and a wife can be considered discriminatory. I've got an adult, 2 adults, and 5 kids. I got 7 people, and they have a 3-bedroom house, or a 5-bedroom house. Well, that's too many people in my. Wait a minute. You have a 5-bedroom house. It's 2,800 square feet, and you're not expecting to attract large families into this property. Okay. Well, that's discriminatory. We can't do that. So, needless to say, we're always on guard for that. And frankly, if we have owners that press that, then we give them their property back and we fire them. So, having said that, when you guys are out there signing up, if you get the proverbial, well, I don't want to rent to Chinese people. Oh, well, let me get my paperwork up and I'll see you later. And good luck.
What about dogs, pets?
We can discriminate against dogs.
I discriminate.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't, and frankly, most of our rentals actually have a no pet policy. The exception is actually the opposite. If you want pets, But normally, but we do have some exceptions to pets, pit bulls, Rottweilers. We don't rent to them. And it's not because pit bulls and Rottweilers are bad dogs. I happen to have a dog that has some pit bull in him, the best dog I've ever had. But insurance companies have a problem with that, okay? More than our insurance company has a problem with it. And most of your landlord's insurance policies will prohibit renting to pit bulls and Rottweilers.
What about smoker? Can we discriminate?
Sure. Matter of fact, I got a tenant right now that's disputing their security deposit specifically over that. You can say no smoking, okay? Having said that, if they smoke, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go in their house every Saturday and see if they're smoking? No. Challenge comes when they move out.
What about an icing dog or seeing eye dog?
Cannot, you cannot
Can't.
eliminate them because of that.
Right.
Yeah, any sort of service dog would be exempt from our restriction. But going back to the smoking thing, tenant moves out, the house looks great. Okay?
Yeah.
Looks good, but it smells. It's like, wow, you know, paint looks perfect, frankly, carpet looks perfect, smells. That's exactly what I got. A tenant came in yesterday, livid. Oh, I never smoked in the house, I smoked outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her point blank, I said, I smell the smoke on your clothes right now. I said, I don't smoke, I'm sensitive to that. You do, you're not. I said, she was in my office yesterday. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. I can smell the smoke on your clothes right now. So, and her house was beautiful. Guess what? We had it painted, and we were able to clean the carpet was okay. And we painted it to get the smell out.
So we can deduct the money from the
Not
deposit.
only can we did. And that's what she was griping about. Yep. Yep. And that's a little tougher one, but hey, it's frankly no different than having the dog come in and pee all over the carpet. You gotta get that smell out of there. Let's just try to make it through the rest of this.
The move-in process is, again, almost as important as anything else. Photo documentation of your property from head to toe, front to back, the whole nine yards.
Okay, we're talking about the moving in. We've now got them screened. Now we want them to move into a property. Every property that we manage, we do super duper thorough photo inspections. I'll just give you just a little clip of our photo library.
Now, that was the tenant screening process.
Yep.
But on the owner screening process, how much research do you do to make sure they're not losing the house to foreclosure?
As much as possible. Foreclosure radar, title company, ask them, especially in this marketplace, or Jay. I mean, Jay probably could have signed up literally 100 more properties in the last 12 months, or past 12 months, and he did. But 100 of those people, you know, were in foreclosure. And they wanted us to manage the property, and they wanted to collect rent as long as they could until it went to foreclosure. We don't take those. If they have a notice of default filed on the property, we're not gonna take it. You know, it's just not worth it. It just puts us in a really bad light, and frankly, it might be a year or two before the default turns into a sale and all the rest of that, but we're not gonna mess with it. This is on our server here in the office. Every one of these, I haven't done this in a while, I'm just curious. This is actually gonna take a little time. These are all properties that we've either sold and or managed, and it's counting folders and it's counting files. We're gonna come back to this in a minute. I mean, so far, and this, I mean, we're not even close, we're at 2,500 properties and over 107,000 individual photographs and 49 gigabytes of photographs so far. We'll come back in a couple minutes and we'll see what that ultimately.
So we can't represent the tenants, we can only represent the,
No, I'm sure you can represent the tenants. But right now, we're talking about signing up for properties.
okay.
So we'll come back to those photos in a minute. But what this is talking about is the move-in inspections. We do written inspections and photographic move-in
Let's talk
inspections.
about a little bit more, let's take it to the next one.
Moving and move-outs are critical.
One of the other basic services that we offer is we transfer all the utilities. And it sounds like a minor thing, but when tenants move in and out of the property, you'd be surprised how much time it takes to actually turn off the gas, electric, and water, or for that matter, turn it back on. So all the utility transfers we handle for you. However, you can put it in your name, we'll pay the bill.
Okay, did you hear that about the utilities? Okay, we're handling, tenants are moving in and out of the property, or in your particular case, the property is, you're signing it up for the first time, all right? The property is vacant, or it's going to be vacant. It's a little bit different situation. You wanna make sure the landlord understands, hey, I know you've moved out of the property, the place looks great, and wow, it's beautiful. Did you keep the utilities on? Oh no, we were gonna turn those off. Are you kidding me? Look at this grass, it's beautiful, you know? A lot of they just don't think, they're not thinking through the process. Oh no, we're gonna leave the water on, but we're gonna turn the electric and the gas off. Well, who's gonna run, how's the timer gonna work on your sprinkler timer? Oh, okay, so make sure they leave and the gas as well. You know, I don't wanna leave the gas on, it's a hazard. Well, it's not a hazard, leave the gas on. Tenants are gonna come in, we're gonna come in, we wanna turn on the hot water and we wanna have hot water come out. We don't wanna find out after the fact that the hot water heater's not working, or the air conditioner doesn't work, or your grass is dying and all the rest of that. Now, in between tenants, actually we place a tenant in the property now, in most cases, the tenants are responsible for all the utilities from that point forward, okay? So they're gonna transfer out of the owner's name into the tenant's name, gas, electric, water, trash, okay? Trash is a big deal in Moreno Valley. If a tenant doesn't pay their electric bill, what happens to the electricity? Gets turned off. They got a bill, they got to deal with it. If the tenant doesn't pay the trash bill, what happens to it? They make a lien, but does the trash truck pick up the trash on Friday? Then they keep picking it up. Trash service is mandatory, at least in Moreno Valley. So if the tenant stops paying the bill, unlike when they get home, the power's turned off, that normally says, well, geez, I guess I better call the power company. Well, guess what? They'll come home on trash day and their trash is picked up, and they'll continue to pick it up all year. And then we get a nasty gram, which the owners get upset by. And all the utilities are transferred into tenant's names. Now, are there exceptions to that? Yes. Some obvious ones are, you've now signed up, which by the way, I don't want to discourage anybody from signing up really nice properties. Okay, we want really nice properties, but are really nice, large properties on 2-acre estates traditional rentals? Do we have people call us all the time that want that type of property rented? Yes. Do we take them? Yes. But are we going to have the tenant responsible for the water bill on 2 acres of golf course kept grass? And are we going to make the tenant responsible for the landscaping maintenance on that? No, we're not. Not unless they don't care that that's all going to be dead. Tenants aren't going to pay your $1,000 a month water bill. You're the one who decided to landscape 2 acres of grass. You know, now you want to rent it. You want the 2 acres of grass to stay green. You better pay for it. Okay, and that applies to a variety of. There's unusual service, pool service, for example. Pool service and lawn service are mandatory, paid by the owners of our services. We just instituted this probably about a year ago. We have some owners that push us back a little bit. If the owner has a pool, they have to pay for pool service. If the owner has grass, we want them to pay for lawn service. Now, are we building a buffer into the rent amount, attempt to cover the additional expenses of that? Yes, we are. Okay, but putting the tenants in charge of maintaining the pool and or cutting the grass, to be honest with you, you're asking for trouble. Asking for trouble. They're just not good at it. Okay.
Those for you, make sure all that's coordinated so you have a nice clean financial statement. But again, they are going to be in your name. We used to put utilities in our name, that turned out to be a problem. Some of the other basic services that we contact or contracting with us for basically are to communicate all of our communications with the tenant. 100% of the dialogue between us and the tenant is just that.
Well, what we're talking about right there is you've hired us as a landlord to be your property manager. We are imploring you, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, let us be your property manager, okay? The communication between the tenant and the owner should not exist. If there is any communication between the tenant and the owner, it needs to be done through us, okay? So in other words, you'll have landlords say, well, I'd really like to meet the tenant. Why? Well, I just want to see. Why? I just want to meet them, see what kind of people they are. Wow. Okay, you're asking for trouble, okay? Or I want to do all my own repairs, which is fine. But as soon as an owner and a tenant connect, you're asking for trouble. You're just asking for trouble. There is generally, and I don't like this, but it's true, there's generally somewhat of an adversarial relationship between a landlord and their tenant, okay? And that's what they pay us to do. You're late on your rent. I'm sorry, you need to pay, and you need to pay your late fee. We like to do it professionally and in a kind sort of way, but at the end of the day, the landlords expect us to take care of that sort of stuff. You're not cutting your grass. We need to take care of that. Next thing you know, I got a landlord and a tenant talking. Yeah, well, most of the time, to be honest with you, the landlord messes it up because the landlord's like, oh, you know, I know you're a few days late. We'll see what we can do. Okay? Then you hang up, then the landlord leaves, and then you call me and say, well, we'll see what we can do, so. See what we can do. And then the landlord, well, then who calls me next? Would you pick up the damn rent? I'm like, you just told her that you were going to say, well, I know, but I didn't want to be mean. Well, what the heck are you going over there talking to her for? Because you just totally screwed it all up. Now guess who's going to be calling you? Because now I got to call and play hardball, and now they feel like I'm the bad guy and that you guys have a special love relationship between the landlord and the tenant. And that works that way on everything, repairs, the whole 9 yards. It's dangerous. If you have a landlord that wants to be involved in every phase of the process, including meeting the tenant and picking up the rent, oh, by the way, I'm the landlord and I want to go over and I'm going to inspect that property every other month. You don't want to sign them up. Don't want to sign them up.
Definitely not worth $500.
Yeah, it's not,
Do we inspect properties once a renter's
No.
in there?
We inspect them annually. There's actually a law that changed that says you are no longer allowed to do random inspections on rental properties here, which is ridiculous. But you are invading a tenant's privacy. And what happened, at least, well, my interpretation of what happened is you had landlords, kind of like what I just described, that quite honestly were over inspecting. They'd go in and inspect every month. The tenant, come on, the place is, what are you doing? You were just here 30 days ago. What are you doing? I'm coming, I have my right to inspect, which they did. The the tenant groups got together, and there's legislation passed, I think it was about 3 years ago, that basically prohibits that.
Oh.
You cannot just go do a random inspection. What are you coming over for? I just want to check it out. No, we don't. Now, you can come over, we go over the main, well, you can drive by as much as you want, okay? I'll get a little different story. Let's take this to the logic. We can't just keep going and going and going and going and everything's fine. We do a drive-by of the property. Grass was green, now it's dead. Window was sound, now it's got a big hole in it. Hey, what's going on? Just drove by the property. You know, want to come over and take a look at that window, see what's happening, okay? Or, again, another reason I love to have pool guys and I love to have lawn service done on the property is, how often do you get your grass cut? Once a week? Every 10 days? Well, you get an extra set of eyes front and back on the property with the gardener going over there. We have great relationships with our gardeners. Hey, when you go over there, if you see something going on, let us know. You know, you go, it's amazing what you can find in the backyard. You know, we don't get to go in the backyard on a regular basis, okay? The landscaper does, pool guy does. But, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what's going on back here. It looks great from the curb, but man, they got 16 dogs back there. The lawn is destroyed. You know, they're turning off the pool equipment all the time. So you want to get those type of inspections. Now, what we do, we basically do the original inspection, of course, when they move in, and then we do them upon lease renewal. Okay, so you call you want to renew your lease, great. Let's just come on over, and that legally, then we can come in and we can do that inspection. You know, because we're basically modifying the contract. We want to make sure you haven't destroyed the house.
Is lease renewal an automatic thing, or they have to want it after that
No,
first year?
you can't automatically do it. You've got to sign a change in terms of tenancy. I mean, you could automatically say, we're doing a 1-year lease, which automatically will renew into another year lease if nobody changes terms. But that's not normally what we do. We normally do 1-year leases. We will do longer, but you got to be careful. And honestly, every time I've done a lease that's, not every time, but many times I've done a lease that's longer than 1 year, invariably the owner calls me on month 15 and says, I need to sell. And I'm like, dude, you told me 15 months ago that you weren't going to sell this thing for the next 3 years. I got a 3-year lease for this tenant. I know, but things have changed. Now I'm getting a divorce, and I'm like, okay, so normally we do 1-year leases. At the end of the 1 year, they automatically roll to a month-to-month.
Okay.
But in those cases, most of the time, we don't want them on a month-to-month. Although, I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with the tenant on a month-to-month after
Well,
the first year.
sometimes, people say, okay, well, if you'll resign for a year, I can keep your rent down at
And
this.
and you just took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay.
We'll approach them at expiration, say, hey, do you want to continue on? If you're going to go on a month-to-month, your rent's going to be raised, $50 or $75 or something like that.
How far do we take it from the process? When we get somebody that wants to do it, do we just when do we hand the baton, how does it work,
Okay,
responsibilities on
well,
this?
the presentation, let me finish this and let me answer that, and then we'll, I'm already 10 minutes over. We'll give another 7 minutes, we'll be finished. And we'll get through that. Again, I'm telling them, don't talk to your tenant directly, let us do that.
Probably not exactly what you want. Also, we work with all the vendors, whether it's a landscaper, or whether it's a pool guy, or anyone in the interior of the property, air conditioning, plumbing, heating, electric.
Again, talking about the vendors, all of the repair stuff, in most cases, we handle. Roofing, plumbing, heating, landscaping, whatever. Some of the owners want to be more involved in that, that's fine, but generally speaking, that's part of the service, we don't charge extra for that. We'll deal with the heating, the air conditioning, the lawn service, we'll basically deal with the day-to-day repairs that come up. Owners can pick their own contractors if they want, they got a contractor that they really like, and they want to use this person for that. Even if it's their brother-in-law, whatever it happens to be, we get a little bit hesitant on that stuff. One of the challenges we have with owners doing their own repairs, or owners sending their own handyman out to the property, if the owners are doing their own repairs, there's not really a bill submitted to us, they're just doing it themselves. But the problem with that is they're probably don't have a contractor's license, they don't have insurance, and they go over there and they fix the garbage disposal and they wire it backwards, and now they leave and the tenant comes in and they flip the switch and someone gets shocked, or God forbid the house catches on fire. Okay, is that a problem? Yeah. Now and so let's take that same example. The owner now sends their brother-in-law out to do their repairs. No license, no insurance. It's a problem. It's two problems for us. Number one, we cannot pay those vendors. Normally, if we do, when I say we, I mean through the company. Tenant pays their rent. If a bill comes in for a garbage disposal replacement, the bill comes to us. We deduct it out of the rent, and they get a check from Global Bank or Pioneer Real Estate. The vendor does. Okay. We can only pay vendors that have license and insurance. If they're not licensed and insured, we cannot pay them. So an owner has an outside vendor comes in, the owner wants the bill to come into us, they want us to pay it because they want their financials to look good at the end of the year, they want that all to show up. If that vendor they sent out doesn't have a license or insurance, I cannot pay them. And frankly, owners get pissed off about that. Get pissed all the time. What do you mean and this guy's great? I'm like, I know, the problem is I pay that bill, I get audited, my insurance carrier comes in and says, who's ABC Handyman? I'm like, you caught me. Well, now guess who gets to pay for the insurance for ABC Handyman? Me. I have to pay thousands of dollars because bottom line, ABC Handyman goes out and does something, and the worst happens. I had this happen where we sent out, an employee of ours sent out her husband 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, sent out her husband to a property to do something. Was just hauling trash, unskilled. It didn't really technically require a license to do what he did. But guess what happened when he got into the backyard and started hauling the trash? That dog that was chained to the tree. Broke the chain and ate him.
Ew.
Now, it didn't completely eat him. It ate some of him. Okay? And I'm not talking a little dog bite. I'm talking serious injuries. I get the phone call, and to be honest with you, and it's going to sound terrible, my first thought was not the well-being of Reuben. My first thought was, I'm going to get sued because he doesn't have a license. He's not covered under workers' comp, and he's been eaten by. He's the vendor, by the way. This is the vendor going out. Same sort of relationship, and technically he was sent out under the auspices of Pioneer Real Estate Property Management Division, which in effect makes him what? My employee. And now I'm responsible for him. He got eaten. So it's those little things, and you talk to your owners about, come on, you're being ridiculous, let's go down to Home Depot and we'll get a couple guys sitting on the street and we're going to go out and we're going to do all this stuff and it's going to be great. It works out 90% of the time, or 99.9% of the time. That 1% is a problem. Okay, so we do all our vending, we're almost done, and then I'm going to answer Tom's question.
Financial side, we basically have a state-of-the-art website that you can monitor 24/7 to see what your tenants pay rent, what your distribution's been sent out. Or basically, you guys have anything to do with the property. All of the funds are put in a federally insured FDIC trust account. So if you run out
Okay, talking about our accounting system is slick. okay? It's as good as any program we've ever used, and best I can tell, it's as good as anything that's out there right now. Everything is accessible online now, okay? The tenants can pay their rent online, okay? So we sign them up, you never have to come in. If they don't pay online, by the way, we do not accept cash, and we do not accept check. If a tenant wants to pay other than our online accounting system, they have to go down and get a cashier's check or a money order.
Is there a fee to pay online?
Yeah, it's, I think we're charging $4 a month, okay? Which sounds like a lot, and a lot of tenants gripe about it. Who's had to buy a money order in the
So like
last?
$7.
Right, and frankly,
Or
if
a
your rent's
cashier's check.
$1,500 a month, can you go to 7-Eleven and get one money order for $1,500? No, you got, or three. Some of these places, the maximum money order they'll give you is $500.
Plus the gas driving over
And the inconvenience, you gotta go get 3 monitors, you gotta come into our office. But I gotta tell you, tenants fight us for that all the time, but we do charge them. There's a service fee, because we have to pay a service fee to do it. But anyway, the tenants can pay online. The owners, we're still, it's amazing how many tenants don't pay online, and it also amazes me how many of our owners want a paper check every month. But we can distribute, and we do distribute monthly disbursements to the owner. By the way, tenant pays the rent to us, okay? It goes into our FDIC, federally insured trust account. And if owners permit us to do a direct deposit into their account, it will go out the next day. Okay, so they pay on the 1st, it's wired into the next day, and generally speaking, depending on the institution, it hits their account the next day or maybe the following day. So it should be in their bank account within 48 hours from the time we receive the rent. Now, if they want a paper check, well, paper checks are just that. There's more processing, there's more human beings involved, we've got to print up a statement, we've got to put it in the postage meter, someone's got to run it down to the bank or down to the post office. It could be 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And there's a lot of human error involved. We actually had paper checks that were all printed and they were up in the front. And somebody, probably one of our tenants, came in while we weren't looking, looked at the outgoing mail stack, grabbed about a dozen of our checks. They were checks that were owner checks for rent that had been paid. They went to, I don't know, you had to look at these checks. It would, to me, a 4th grader could have told that they were fraudulent. They basically washed out the owner's name, typed in their name, and went out and cashed about $7,000 worth of rent distribution checks. And now, I didn't even know about it until, how did I find out about it? Owners calling, hey, where's my rent, where's my rent? It was sent, it was sent. What's going on? You know, it was sent. We sent the thing, 2 weeks ago, And you just, well, geez, what do you mean? Not only did we send it, the check cleared. What do you mean it didn't clear? Let's do some research. Oh, wait a minute, you're not John Jones. Who the hell is this person's name? Okay, but anyway, we can pay online to the owners as well. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. All of the landlords and the tenants have access to our system so they can actually log in and see what's going on. So if an owner wanted to see if a tenant paid, they could call us, of course, but they could log on, like, oh yeah, the tenant paid the rent yesterday. Oh, I see the deposit was made. It's coming out of my account. Oh, I see that there's a garbage disposal repair pending. Owner could put a note on there. Hey, what's going on? I didn't know when told me about the garbage disposal. Or a tenant could even go in and say, hey, my garbage disposal just broke. Okay, and it all interacts with the system. Pretty slick stuff.
Worry about that, and if they are handled properly, the Department of Real Estate Solutions.
We're almost done.
Come on upstairs and finish this, and we'll get you on the rest of our website. Okay, to wrap up, the length of the agreement that you would be executing with our management company is 1 year.
You 1-year contracts with the owners.
Now, we do for another year. The reality is, very few of our customers.
Okay, the gist of it is the owner signed a 1-year contract, management contract. Forget about the leases. We're talking about the management contract between us and the owner. So 1-year gig. What I was just saying, the reality is the vast majority, and I mean the vast majority, 97% of the owners that we sign up on the 1-year lease or 1-year management contract, at the end of the 1st year, they love us. They may not love us, but they don't hate us enough to fire us, and we just roll on over into another year. And actually, we don't even roll into another year. We just roll on a month-to-month agreement, and the probably 75% or more of all the properties we currently have under management have been with us for well over a year, and the owners are just on a month-to-month management contract with us. Okay, and that's how it works. We get fired on occasion. Probably 10% of those reasons we get fired are legitimate. We screwed up. We did something we shouldn't have done, or we didn't do something we should have done. Frankly, 90% of the reasons are nonsense. The owner's expectations are just ridiculous. You know, they're firing us because we didn't rent the property in 3 days and, well, it smells like cat and prices to it, so.
Person never cancel the service. Really, the only time they cancel is if they decide to sell the property, which frankly can help you with, or if they decide to move back. But the agreement is for a 1-year period, so if you're not prepared to rent your property for at least a year, then you probably need to reconsider your decision to rent it go. If you have any questions, please browse the rest of the site.
Okay, so, and then the last part was, by the way, and this goes, one of the reasons that you guys, I think, should embrace this is every property that you sign up is your property, okay? So, most of these people, we've been doing this for 25 years. We have very, very, very few properties that we signed up 23 years ago that we still manage. Believe it or not, we still have a few. But the majority of those people, something has changed in their life and they've sold. Many of them have frankly lost to foreclosure. Some of the owners have moved back in. But the ones that get sold, if we're doing a good job, a good percentage of those properties ultimately end up coming back into into the office, and you may have completely disconnected with them. Never, because you guys don't have a good contact management system and you're not following up with them. Well, guess what? We're seeing them once a month, or at least they're seeing us once a month. They're getting a letter from Global Banker with a statement with our logo, which they're thinking, oh, that's Debbie, Global Banker, Debbie. I haven't heard from Debbie in a long time, but every time I see Global Banker Pioneer Real Estate, it makes me think of Debbie. Then 3 years later, comes time to sell. I wonder what Debbie's doing. I haven't talked to her. Well, they call the office. I'm thinking about selling. Oh, we saw you work with Debbie. Or God forbid, they call and say, hey, is Debbie still around? I haven't heard from her. Well, guaranteed you guys get those customers back to you. Okay. And from a buyer's side, yeah, I'm going to say something that maybe isn't completely true, but I've certainly been thinking about it a lot. We do get buyer leads that come into the office periodically on the tenant side. If we have a bunch of agents like yourself that want to embrace the but the owner side of the transaction, it only seems fair that I would maybe reward you proportionately with the buyers that come out of it. So in other words, a tenant comes into the property, into the office and says, hey, I want to buy. It has no connection with anything that you guys have ever signed up. You know, traditionally right now, we'll throw them in a lead router, they'll just go out and it'll end up on somebody's lap. We might change that. We might say, hey, guess what? You know, Debbie and Stephen and Shirley, you guys are signed up, 15 properties in the last 12 months. You're really supporting the program. Tell you what, we're going to give you guys the buyers. You talk to Mike Boab about the leads that have come out of property management. You know, I'm probably overstating it, but Mike's worked in the office now for, I don't know, almost 20 years. That man has made hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions out of the property management department. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, a percentage of his book of business every year came, and he probably liked it a lot better when there was only 15 of us over in Marina Valley. Because the buyers would, it's not just the buyers, it was, and they'll get a lot of these folks become sellers. You know, and you're not going to sign them all up. You know, they just come in, Aubrey signs them up. Well, that's kind of an office lead. So now somebody comes in and says, hey, it's time to sell. Well, they're not attached to any agent. They were just kind of generated through the office. Well, let's see who out there wants a listing. Okay, so there is a lot of business that flows through the property. Frankly, I know Steve's done property management. Frankly, Steve worked in our Marina Valley office 100 years ago when we first started doing it. He saw the benefit of it. I know why more companies don't do it, because frankly, property management's a pain in the tush. Okay, every gray hair I have on my head is from property management. Okay, but it is a hand-in-glove relationship when it comes to a real estate office. It's a perfect blend. Buyers and sellers, landlords and tenants. Are you kidding me? Landlords become sellers, tenants become buyers. Well, guess what? We got it. And frankly, most of the other the offices in town that are traditional real estate offices, they either try it and they fail, or they actually succeed, but they don't go far enough into the business. Because in the beginning, if you don't have 50 to 100 units, you're going to lose money. You know, if you don't have that many, it's just too much. You've got to have an excess of a minimum 50 units, probably 150 before you really actually make money. And most of the traditional real estate offices, they just don't support it long enough to get to that point. Okay, to answer Tom's question, which I forgot where it was.
Just where we hand off between.
Oh, where do you hand
section
off?
two.
Okay, let's wrap this up, and thought we were going to be done by 11. It's 11:45 almost. Okay, this is the deal. You're going to go out And do you guys feel comfortable enough selling this right now? I would think maybe 50% of the way there. Well, this is the deal. Everything you need on the website to sign them up is there. Watch the pool video that just talks about the importance of keeping up a pool. I'm not going to open up all these documents. That's the presentation that we looked at. It's 9 pages. There's a letter to the owner that talks about who you are, online access. This is all owner stuff we're talking about.
And that's all editable?
Some of the PDF, not all of it, but most of the PDFs.
You
look at it?
can get around it by application, but yeah, of course with your permission, yes.
Okay, fair enough. So you got the online access, the direct deposit form, this is the property management agreement, this and this is the same link. It's basically just, by the way, it's Debbie and I were just talking about this, or emailing this just the night before last. We use the California Association of Realtors Property Management Agreement. There's nothing special about it. You can, if you want, print ours out, go into your win forms, type it up, put our terms and conditions in there, have your name and all your information on there, just save it as the Pioneer Property Management Agreement. You can pop in your owner's name and address and the date, print it, you're done, okay? But everything you need is here. Authorization forms for the water companies. We got some small claims court stuff here, but that's all, but that really you don't need, including the W-9 form. So they want to do it, all right? You print out, this is all I need from you. You need this property management agreement, completed. It's 3 pages, okay? It's already got all the terms in it. If you go to page 2, all the terms are already here. All you got to do is put in the owner's name and address. Have the initial first 2 pages, sign the last page. I need the property management agreement. I need this. Actually, I don't need that. Actually, I do need this, but that's not what I was looking for. Actually, the form I thought was on here wasn't on here. There is a setup sheet, an info sheet that frankly we need to get on here. But it's basically just basic information. Address, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, cross streets, you know, just who's going to pay for the water, sewer, gas, you know, the rest of it. Again, I'm talking, in most cases, tenants pay for all that, but this is a special property with 2 acres, all those special notes. Hey, basically, you fill that out. Again, this normal presentation, if you're spending as much time as I just spent, you're taking too long, okay? This is a 15 to 45 minute presentation max, okay? If you're spending more than 45, and I'm talking at their house, if you're doing it over the telephone, this is a 10-minute presentation on the phone. You can send them to our website, tell them to fill out those forms, or what I would do is I would get those forms in an email template that you guys have saved on your own stuff. It's okay, let me email this to you. Email them the same goodies, fill these out, and send them back. What I used to do, and which I think is answer Andre's question, I used to prospect for this stuff like mad dog, okay? I would, again, little different marketplace, but I loved expired listings. So I was sending letters and making phone calls. This was back in the day when the owner's name and phone numbers used to stay in the listings. But I would send letters and phone calls out to expireds all day long. The main focus of my target marketing was not property management. I wanted to get the listing to resell that had expired. But I'd always put a tagline in there. Oh, and by the way, if you decided, you know, discouraged with the marketplace right now, maybe you decided to wait, let us rent the property out for you for a year, then maybe we could try to sell it next year. Bingo, okay? I would get hits on that nonstop, all day long, okay? I talked to them on the phone. Keep in mind, a lot of these people don't live locally, okay? So you're not gonna necessarily do the appointments. They've already gone, okay? I would mail them the agreement, and then I'd go to the mailbox. And, you know, between 1990, I think my mom started in 1990, and I probably up until probably that entire decade, the entire decade of the 90s, even though I did a lot of REOs, I was still actively doing real estate, and I would send out these letters, and I'd send out property management agreements, and I'd send out between 5 and 10 a month. Jeremy? 5 and 10 a month. And I wasn't trying, guys. I was trying for listing business, okay? And back then, we didn't pay $500 to throw. We only paid $147.50, which was half of the $295. My folks were cheap, okay? So I signed up 10 properties. I'd make $1,475. You guys sign up 10 properties. I'm paying you 5 G's. Yeah. Yeah. Who said yeah? on the landlord-tenant side is, well, wait a minute, who am I doing business with? I saw a Pioneer Real Estate business card, and now you told me to go to the Redlands office, and it doesn't say Pioneer Real Estate. You just need to tell your client who we are. We are Pioneer Real Estate Incorporated, and we do business as 3 different Global Banker names right now, but we're all the same, okay? If in the Redlands market, and in the other markets, the rent signs we will put up will say Global Banker Realty Center, okay? And I only go, because I know it creates the confusion, all right? But it's basically the same information. And we do put our regular Global Banker signs up for what it's worth, and obviously they say for rent. All those calls go into the call center, by the way.
All right, why don't you follow me on in? We're going to talk a little bit about the services we have to offer.
First thing I think we're talking about here is fees. I think.
Needless to say, you're on our website right now, and if you look on the owner's page, which is where you happen to be, you're going to find the property management presentation. If you've already looked at it, I'm basically going to explain it to you. One of the very first things you notice on our property management.
Okay, what I'm talking about here is this. The setup presentation. And the setup presentation is a PowerPoint that we've converted into basically a PDF file. If you memorize these 9 pages, I think it is, for the most part, you'll have a fairly basic yet decent understanding of what we do. So let me see if I can get this on the screen here a little bit better. And, okay, that seems like you can see that a little bit. And by the way, if you want to customize this presentation, we can give it to you in a PDF. You can put your name here. Okay, you can brand this yourself. Obviously what we have on the website is company generic. It doesn't have everybody there. It does list, and it's not, I don't really like the way this looks so much, but it does list all of our offices here with the addresses and contact numbers and so on and so forth. On this particular one, it does have my email if they're interested, but you can create your own. I have no problem with that. The only challenge I have is if you create your own presentation, if you change anything in the presentation, I want to see it. And I'm not necessarily talking about the obvious. The obvious would be terms. I mean, if you're going to change it from 9% to 10%, you might want to let me know first. But I'm talking about the graphics. If you want to put a red swoosh on here, or if you want to put a picture of somebody holding a bag of money or something like that, I want to see it for 2 reasons. Number one, I may really like it, and I may say, that presentation you did rocks. I'm going to now make your presentation the company presentation because it's better. And then quite honestly, I may hate it. And if I hate it, I don't want you to put it out there. You know. So, at any rate, we're talking about fees. If I go back to the video is going to start talking about the fees. This is it. Okay, so if you want to, how much do we charge for the property management services? There are 3 things that you have to remember. We charge 9% of the collected rent. That is collected rent. I emphasize the word collected because if we do not collect rent, for example, the property is vacant, nobody's paying, we don't get paid. If the property is occupied, but for whatever reason the tenant has not paid their rent, or either an eviction or there's a problem, we do not get paid. Okay, now emphasize that because when I'm doing this presentation sitting down with an owner, I want them to know, hey, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you on this. You know, it's in everybody's best interest for us to get a good quality tenant who pays their rent, does what they need to be doing, does it on time, because if we put in a bad tenant, not only do I get the burden of having to deal with an upset owner and a possible eviction and possible repairs, I'm not getting paid. It's kind of like getting going into an escrow that you know from day one this escrow is not going to close. But you have to manage the cancellation process, and you have to deal with the angry parties and all of the nonsense all the way to the very end, knowing that you will never get paid. Okay, and that's frankly how the property management relationship is as it relates to how we get paid. We only get paid if the tenants are paying the rent.
Well,
Late fees, yes.
If it's Section 8, the tenant is paying one amount, Section 8 is paying another.
Same principle.
9%.
9% of whatever's paid.
Total.
So, and that's a perfect example how we can have, this is why we're going to do this class every month. By the way, we're going to do this class again next month. We're not going to talk about the same thing. Okay? Shirley's brought up a perfect example of, there is a 60-minute training class on Section 8. okay? And we're 3 minutes into this thing, okay? And an owner is going to ask you that, by the way, ask questions, pretend that I'm selling you this service, and you're, well, wait a minute. And you're, well, wait a minute, Section 8, if you're not familiar with how Section 8 works, Section 8, by the way, is HUD, okay? That is the government-funded housing program that basically offers housing assistance to low-income folks who qualify within certain range. You're going to be talking to a customer about our property management service, and of course, just like a listing presentation, they're going to have a question, okay? And then that question is going to have an answer, which is going to lead to another question, which is going to lead to another question. And you start off talking about tenants, or you start off talking about fees, and you end up talking about evictions and how long does it take, and oh my God, and how much is it going to cost, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off. This is our website,
Should we close those?
and on our
Make people sleepy.
shrink this completely. And bear with me, Brian just put this new toolbar on our website, and I'm not sure I'm really happy with it.
Now, is this same website for your other offices, or do they have a separate website?
Well, we've got Coldbaker Town and Country, Coldbaker Pioneer, Coldbaker Realty Center. Which, by the way, how would you guys feel if we came up with a new name?
Of what, as opposed to what?
Something unified. Coldwell Banker Unified Group, other than, and I'm just talking off the top of my head. We've got 3 different DBAs. So we are Coldwell Banker Town and Country in Claremont, Covina, Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate Marina Valley in Santa Ana, and we're Coldwell Banker Realty Center in Redlands.
I think Town and Country might have a problem with that.
What's that?
I think Town and Country would have a problem with that. They've been Town and Country for
Well, just make us all Town
Well,
and
they're-
Country then.
But you've been branded
Well,
with concern.
They have, well, but Stephen's right, Town and Country, well, but Town and Country's been Town and Country for 25 years.
Yeah.
Realty Center's been Realty Center for 25 years. We've been Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate for 9 years, and Pioneer Real Estate for 25 years.
So call us Town and Country Realty Center.
It's funny. But at any rate, well, that's a different debate for a different day. The website is unified. So if you go to CB Town and Country, or they used to refer to themselves as CBTC SoCal, which I hate, Coldwell Banker Town and Country, Southern California, you all get to the same website. So then depending upon if you want information, we're in Moreno Valley, I can click on the Moreno Valley button, which I granted is a little, vague and a little mysterious there. It'll get you to information on our Moreno Valley office, who our managers are, what we do. If you want information on the Redlands office, you can click there. And of course, you can also go to the Find an Agent location. But the short answer is they are unified.
Okay,
So-
I was just wondering, because you log in as CBPRE,
Well, not
and
really.
that's what I meant.
Well, you could do this. Let's just get out of here, and we do www.cbredlands.com.
Oh, okay.
And that's the Redlands office has CB Realty Center, realtycenter.com, a bunch of different variations of Realty Center, but it's also CB Redlands. But if you do that, through the magic of modern computing, it will take you back to our homepage. Now, if you notice up top, it did change you to cbpre.com. And we've even thought about changing that, because the agents in Redlands, and I even mentioned it this morning, Brian has a bunch of Pioneer Real Estate branded on here. Well, if you're in Redlands or Claremont Covina, you're not Pioneer Real Estate. So we might change it from CBPRE to just something like, CB United Site or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, anyway, back to the property management, which is what we're here for. I'm on I'm on our website. I am going to punch these buttons up a little bit, just so they're a little bit more visually catching. But if you go to the property management section, I'm going to start on the owner info, which is frankly where we left off before. And by the way, this is all on our website. This isn't in a PowerPoint that's saved. Everything I'm going to talk about today, you can leave this office and you can go to our website and you can check it out. Now, I'm not going to play this video in its entirety, but you need to watch this video. Okay, it's 6 minutes long. You can watch it at your own leisure. Everything I'm going to talk about in the video, I'm going to spend more time talking about. As a matter of fact, maybe this will help me out here a little bit. Maybe we'll play pieces of it, and then I'll stop it and we'll talk about it a little bit. Maybe we won't. and again, I'm gonna stop right here, for those of you that are watching this video, and you noticed it said Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate on the initial tagline. I need to get rid of that, because we've got people in Redlands and Covina that are, the confusion abounds. So, but at any rate, these
Frank
are,
Smart, I'm the broker owner of our property management department.
no comments on the waistline, please.
A little bit.
Matter of fact, while I'm thinking of it, we'll just stop right there. You've noticed we've got our Coldwell Banker sign in here. We do have the Pioneer Real Estate. If you are selling, sir, and it's entirely possible you guys are going to be out and have the opportunity to sell our property management. So let's just say in Redlands, okay? There may be some. This is why this name thing kind of keeps coming back to them. There may be some confusion. Okay, affectionately referred to as Section 8, just kind of a
Yeah.
less than pleasant
Yeah,
term, but.
yeah.
Anyway,
How do we know that the prospect tenant, how long that the government will support them on Section 8?
Well,
And
normally,
define them.
it's almost, to be honest with you, it's almost indefinitely. But let me start with that, and let me finish with that. On a Section 8 property, normally what ends up happening, or not normally, always what ends up happening, is the government program pays a percentage of the rent. In some cases, it's very large. Okay, let's just say we have $1,000 a month rental. I've seen cases where the tenant's portion of the rent is $32 on a $1,000 rental. Government's paying $968.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, this is partially why the program gets a bad name. You'll have a tenant, and by the way, we do not qualify them for Section 8. It has nothing to do with us. They come to us with basically their voucher that says, I'm qualified for Section 8 housing. If they have the voucher, then all that voucher means is that Housing and Urban Development agrees to pay a portion of the rent. They do not guarantee that the tenant pays their portion. They do not guarantee the condition of the property. They don't guarantee anything. The only thing they guarantee is that the government will pay their agreed upon portion of the rent, and that's it. There's a big misconception out there. A lot of people think, well, wait a minute, what if, let's use my $32 example. The tenant doesn't pay the $32, okay? Well, that's okay, the government will pay the $32. No, they won't. Now, if you notify Section 8, hey, the tenant's not paying their $32, can the tenant lose their Section 8 voucher? Yes, they can, okay? Have I had tenants who haven't paid the $32? Yeah. And frankly, do I have owners that sometimes don't care? Yeah. I've had owners that say, well, you want us to call it Section 8 and you'll beat them up? No. I don't want them to do that. Just, let's leave it alone. I don't care about the $32. Well, technically, that's a violation of the rules with Section 8. We're supposed to notify the landlord, or not the landlord, the Section 8, the housing agency, that somebody's, running afoul. Can somebody else pay it for them? No. Tenant has to pay it, okay? But again, and I've used this example before, and it may sound a little, unsavory, but it's true. We've had tenants that have come in